Some of the topics we're talking about in today's episode may be sensitive for some listeners, so listener discretion is advised. There is a perfect example of motherhood out there. We've all felt its presence. It lingers in our social media feed, in the products we buy, the answers to the questions we research. Even though we know it's not real, we feel it spotlight what we could be doing better.
Join two best friends as they step off the stage of motherhood and go behind the scenes with moms from different walks of life.
The Momcult Podcast. Real moms, real talk, real tired.
I am Sarah Parker Massey, and this is...
I'm Joy Todd.
And this is the Momcult Podcast. Welcome, everybody. We are here with our guest today, Alexis B. Paulson. Woo! A nurse practitioner and mom of two.
Are you a Nashville native?
I was born in Ohio. I lived there for 2 weeks. Does that count?
Moving it with a 2-week-old. No,
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Like a jumping off point.
Yeah.
right.
I thought maybe you were, but I moved here when I was about 5, but I've always considered this home. I feel like I'm sure you do too, right?
Yeah, it's always awkward when people are like, were you born here? And it's like, well, do I have to explain?
I'm really not ready to go into the details of that right now, but if you're asking if I'm a Nashville native, yes, I am.
I guess you can say that. Yeah. So grew up in Brentwood with Miss Joy Wise.
That's right.
You guys have known each other since...
3rd grade.
Wow.
1993.
A lot of water under that bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so many. Yeah. So
I
much
can't believe
drama.
we're still friends after everything that happened in Miss Kennemer's class. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. Eric was gone last week for a full week, which he did once. It's a trip that he goes on every year. And having a 2-year-old is just different. And I'm marveling at how in the first episode, I remember feeling like really together and like having like, wow, I'm just going to be like really like positive, like upbeat side of this. And then just the vast difference in that day to day. Not like it's, just not really a nosedive, but just it's different. And the highs and lows and not that I'm in a low even, just the difference in how together you feel, really. It's not like a bad or, anyway. So that's where I'm at.
So are you feeling together or not together because he's gone?
No, he's here. He's back.
Okay.
He's here now. Well, and also noticing how much space he creates, like his help and his presence, even if he did nothing and he does a lot, just the support and all the things that he does and appreciating that. I mean, I thought before, like, I'm not going to overtalk those points, but like really just grateful. I guess that's good to do. Yeah, honestly, grateful for that. And not together, don't feel together. But I also feel like how we've noted that things are so temporary in this whole gig of being a mom, how temporary every single thing is. And so like, I know I'm going to get back to a place where everything feels together. Maybe it's going to be this afternoon.
Right.
And that's crazy, but good. And like just introspective.
Good.
Yeah. You?
I'm fine. I got to go on vacation 2 weeks ago. So I'm like, you get back in town and then the decline starts happening. So 2 weeks out of vacation, I'm fine. I came home to a very clean house because my mom cleans the house every time she's there.
That's
which is
great.
Amazing. So I really have been trying to stay on top of that. And just like every night, like, okay, we're starting with a clean slate finally. I'm just going to pick up a little bit here and there every night before bed and hopefully stay on top of the mess. I'm still on top of it as of today.
That's huge.
But again, temporary. No idea how long it'll last before it all avalanches again.
I don't know if you know, what is like they say, how long does it take to create a habit? I can't remember what they say, but
Too long.
It's 2 weeks.
I think it's like
2
60
weeks.
days or something, maybe.
Oh, well.
Oy. How are you this week, Alexis?
Pretty good. Optimistic. We have a lot going on right now with both kids, kind of. Kate just started a new school a couple weeks ago.
Have you said their ages yet?
Oh, sorry. Kate is 3 and Charlie is 7, both Nashville natives. So So a little bit of background. Charlie was diagnosed with autism when he was 3 and has done really well. His psychologist has always said, if he's doing well in school, then that means he's doing well. When his teachers start reporting that he's having issues with things, then let me know and we'll address them. And really, since he's been 3, he's really done well in school, and he's really smart, and he's had friends, and we can see signs of autism in him, but it's nothing that really hinders his life at all. But his teacher this year, especially after a year of being virtual, being back into school, I think was kind of a big transition for him. And I think the curriculum for virtual school was pretty relaxed. So, and we were very relaxed about it. So he's definitely was out of the routine of daily school. And so she has a few things that she was concerned about. And so we've been meeting with the school about what he needs and how we're going to achieve that. But then it's also kind of bringing up in us like, well, is this the right place for him? We're big public school advocates, but if we have the opportunity to seek additional care for him or a different school setting that may be more conducive for him, shouldn't we at least look into that? And so the past couple of weeks, we've been actively doing all of that, talking with his doctor, talking with his teachers, talking with our family, talking with friends. So this morning, even, we had a tour at a school. Yeah. So like that's really what's kind of on the forefront of my mind and what we're kind of actively dealing with this week. Right. Is coming home happy, but has expressed some frustration about school and how it's going. And so we're trying to be open to his input as well. My friend Rita asked me the other day about when I was telling her about our school options and questions and exploration. She was like, well, what does Charlie think? And I was like, well, I haven't really asked him about if he wants to go to another school or anything like that. But he does say that school is hard and it seems like it's frustrating for him. Paying attention, handwriting has been really hard for him. He can write legibly, but it takes him like twice as long. Yeah. And he falls into this really tricky gray area with schools, with public school especially, which is he's smart, he tests well, he gets good grades, and he struggles. So it's like on paper, he looks good, but his teachers are acknowledging that he needs more support. So being able to advocate for him within the bureaucracy of the school process can be really exhausting and frustrating. And we've been through that before. When he was 3, we got him evaluated by the schools after he got his diagnosis to see if he qualified for any services. And like I said, he didn't. It's just sort of been a watch and wait thing. And I've told Dave, my husband, I've always kind of been waiting for this to happen, right?
Right. Like what age are we going to
what age is this? What age are we going to hear from school or from somewhere that he needs some help? And it's here. And so I'm actually surprised that I'm emotionally handling that better than I thought I would, I guess. But
probably
I think
compared to the last 2 years, this is a breeze.
Yeah, exactly. After having him home for 1.5 years. Yeah. But from his birth.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you wanted to talk a little bit about his birth story.
Sure. I mean, I was just going to say from his birth, we've always sort of been in a holding watch and wait pattern with him just to see what was going to present. And I mean, technically you're like that with every kid, right? I was not prepared to be faced with that so early on, though. I had a really healthy, normal pregnancy, happy. I was so happy being pregnant. And so I felt so good. I think the first trimester I was like nauseous, but never threw up and tired, but
do you like being pregnant in general?
I did with him.
Okay.
With Kate, it was a lot harder of a pregnancy just with stomach stuff and reflux and sleep disturbances. And I had eczema. I was really itchy, like stuff like that. Yeah. I got a sinus infection. I felt like I was going to die. Like I thought I was having a stroke. Like my head hurt so bad. But with Charlie, I was like healthy and felt great and exercised and took all the vitamins and did the yoga and, really tried to do everything right. Like most first-time moms do. And then
not the second time.
No. Then we learned. It didn't work. Didn't do anything. Still sus. But I probably reverted a little bit too far to that angle too with Kate, because emotionally I did deal with, doing everything right for the first pregnancy, and then everything really went wrong for his delivery. I had planned a natural birth in the hospital with a midwife, had a doula. I went into labor 3 days after my due date in the middle of the night. It hit me really hard, really fast. Woke up and my contractions were 3 minutes apart, 30 seconds long. And I woke up, and like you said, I'm a nurse practitioner, and my original specialty was women's health. So I have some understanding of what
to expect.
Yeah, what to expect, and maybe a little bit more than lay people, but also I was never a midwife, so I didn't have a lot of labor and delivery experience. Right. But I kind of woke up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh man, this is a rough labor. Like right off the bat, everything I've heard and read is that it'll
ease into it.
Yeah, very slow, ease in. And I was like, oh, okay. Whew, this is happening hard. Like, okay. So I call my doula and my midwife, and they're both like, you're probably dehydrated. Like, eat some food, get in the bath, see if it slows down. So I did that, and it didn't. It got stronger and heavier, and my doula made it over to the house, and she was like, okay, you want to go on in? Because we had talked about laboring as long as possible at home to avoid, excessive interventions. So we go on in, and they check me, and I think they said I was only 3 or 4 centimeters dilated when I got there, and I was sort of like, okay,
like, how is this possible?
Okay, great. Well, I'm just like in a state of constant contraction. Mm-hmm. So how much longer do I have to do that for if I'm only 3 or 4 centimeters? And they put me on the monitor, and they were like, he's a little less responsive than we would like to see. But again, you're probably dehydrated. We're going to start an IV. And I was so anti-intervention that even at that point, I was like, okay, but just a little tiny bit. just
a touch.
I don't know why I was like trying to control that in that moment. Like incredible pain and like not being an expert, but I'm just like, well, I don't want to get.
Well, I had this idea of what I wanted it, how I wanted it to go. So I think I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah.
If possible.
Yeah. So if you're going to give me an IV, I just want a drop.
I'll compromise. You can give me half a bag.
I am in control of this situation,
I
okay?
I swear
I am handling this, and I need you guys to get on my birth plan.
You've like clamped it off.
Right. I'm like chewing it.
Bring your own clamps.
So ridiculous. So they put me in a room, and I'm on the monitor, and I want to say I was in the room for 5 minutes-ish, and I felt the urge to push.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, well, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to control this again. I can control this. And like I said, they told me I was 3 to 4 centimeters. Like, why would I wouldn't be pushing right now. And then the next contraction came, and your body, just pushes. Mm-hmm. I just pushed, and something came out, and my doula was with me, and she looked down, and she said, oh, your bag of water came out, which can happen. So it was still intact. The bag hadn't ruptured. It was just the piece, like the bottom part of the bag of water came out. So the monitor's going crazy. So the nurses come in, the midwife comes in, and they're like, okay, the baby's in distress. We're going to break the bag of water, and hopefully that will kind of move him into a better position. So they break it. There's meconium, which isn't good. It's not terrible, but it's not great.
Is that their first bowel movement?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The baby's bowel movement in the water.
Right.
And it just kind of sets them up for infection and sometimes breathing issues if they breathe it in.
Which is typically why they don't let you go past 2 weeks, because the fear is that they'll have their first bowel movement inside of you still.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So they do that, and then the monitor kind of stabilizes. He's looking better. I am like in La La Land trying to do my hypnobirthing techniques, right? I'm trying not to focus on every crazy thing that's going on, but also listening in the back of my mind and trying to pay attention to what the doctors are telling each other and the nurses are saying over there, and trying to manage my pain. So with one of the emergency OB team came in at that point and assessed me, and they were like, yeah, monitor's not looking great. So as soon as, and I think after they broke my bag of water, I dilated to, like up to 8.
Wow.
And so that was like between 3 a.m. in the morning to like 10 a.m. I went from whatever to 8. So it was a abnormally fast labor. So they were like, in a little bit, you'll be complete. And then we're going to come back in and make sure delivery goes okay. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm breathing. Like I'm trying to be on a different planet right now and not listen to whatever your plan is.
Whatever you guys are whispering about back there.
And like in hindsight, I honestly feel kind of guilty that I wasn't thinking about the baby. I don't know if you guys had this with your labor, and especially I think with drug-free labor, is you're thinking so much about managing your pain and managing.
There's nothing else. There's no space for
another
thought. At least that was my experience. For sure.
So you're just focusing on survival.
Mm-hmm.
But in hindsight, and I think pretty soon after, I felt pretty guilty that I wasn't asking how the baby is, like, or do we need to be doing something different? I was just sort of,
Well, it wouldn't have wouldn't have mattered. It would have added more stress on you than you needed.
True.
You didn't need the mental stress on top of what your body's already physically trying to deal with.
True. Thank you.
You're welcome. So glad you came in today. Thank you so much. Just never hear the end.
So a little while later, the monitors are going crazy. The emergency team runs back in. The baby's just not doing well. So they try to turn me over on my stomach to get on all fours. That doesn't work. And did they ever make you do that?
What position were you in most of the time?
On my back.
No, I couldn't have.
Be on your back?
I mean, whatever position, I was like standing, hovering over the bed, but on a stack of like 4 pillows. So I was like standing and bent over.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried for like a split second to move to a different position. And I was like,
oh, no,
I can't. I mean, we got to the birthing center just in time, because if I was having to have the contractions I was having in the car, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you do what you have to do, but no, I couldn't. The thought of being on my back.
Yeah. Well, the thought of getting on all fours from my back, I was like, oh, no. I'm not doing that. And they were like, look at me. You have to do it. You're going to do it. And I was like, oh, no, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Again.
That's not, no.
It's not something I do.
Yeah.
I appreciate the gesture, but I'm going to pass.
Have you read my birth plan?
Oh, no.
I brought some extra copies.
Get my bag.
I need Dave, get my bag.
Dave, what are you doing? Get off your phone.
Get off your phone, Dave.
I feel guilt that I haven't commented, and also guilt that, I've only had one birth and I had drugs. And so I feel like I had drugs later than I should have. So I have guilt about that and like guilt about not even trying. So anyway,
guilt.
I had drugs.
Everybody, either way you go.
Drugs the first time, no drugs the second time.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. And I had an elective C-section with Kate. So like, yeah, I've kind of experienced.
We're about to find out why.
After this message. Yeah, so they were like, okay, get on your all fours. It's not happening. So I wasn't completely dilated at that point, but he was doing poorly. So they were like, okay, we're going to try a forceps delivery. Do we have your consent to do forceps? Because he needs to come out. And I was like, yeah, just like end this. Like, I don't care. Just end this was really my only feeling. Mm-hmm. So they put these forceps up inside. Did you, neither of you have that?
No.
I can't remember.
No desire.
You would remember.
I don't think so. No.
Well, yeah.
No.
And they have to ask your consent to do it.
Well, especially no drugs plus forceps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the way I described it, maybe this is TMI, but the way I described it to my father-in-law, like the same day of the birth, was it felt like cold metal, but it felt so foreign. It felt like car parts. Like someone was using like automotive tools or parts and putting them inside of my body and then like trying to pull things out of my body. So that was really traumatic. They tried that 4 times. And then they said, okay, he's not coming. So do we have your consent to do a C-section? And I was like, yes, end this. Like, end this. So they said, okay. And they rolled me into the OR. I had to say bye to Dave. They had given me some drugs to numb the pain through my IV. So that actually felt like paralyzing. It was very bizarre. I can't remember what drug it was, but it felt like I couldn't feel anything in my whole body at all at that point. But it did take the pain away. So that was something. I was able to breathe. So they took me into the OR. They put a mask on me. And then I realized, oh, you're putting me under. And the anesthesiologist said, yep. And that's like the last thing I remember. So I woke up with no baby in the same room where I labored. Okay. It's been 7 years, but I can still. Dave was there, and I don't remember my first thoughts. I just remember waking up, and I think the only thing I remember about my first thoughts they weren't about where's the baby actually. Like, I don't know why, it just wasn't my first thought. It was sort of like, okay, like what happened and where am I and what's going on? And then I think I remember Dave saying like, he's okay. Charlie's okay. He's in the NICU and we'll get to see him soon. So they came in and said, he's in the NICU. We've got him stabilized. He's doing okay. And as soon as you're stable, you can go and see him. And I was like, I'm stable. I'm ready. Like, I'm stable. Let's go. And they're like, well, let's give you like an hour or two to let the anesthesia wear off and everything. And I think I made it like 15 minutes. And I was like, no, get me a chair. Like, we're going. So we go down and into the NICU. And the other thing that really haunts me about that moment was I didn't recognize him. I didn't know which one he was. How would you? But you kind of expect to walk into a room and recognize your kid,
or to have the moment where they're on your chest. You don't have to even try to find them.
Right? Yeah. It's just they're there. You're meeting them, and they're with you. They were never gone. Thank you. So they had to show me which one he was, and so he had they call a hypoxic brain injury, meaning he was without oxygen for a good amount of time. So he came out pretty blue and had to be resuscitated. And in order to prevent additional brain injury, swelling, inflammation, the best thing that they've found for kids in that situation is full body cooling. So when I was in nursing school, I remember being in ICUs, and for people who had head injuries, we would do cooling for them too. But they had figured out that it works really well in babies too. And that was just like in the past, like in the first maybe 5 years before he was born, like that technology or that research had really proven the benefits of that treatment. So anyway, so when I see him, when they took me over to him, he was naked to be cooled. They only dropped their temperature, I think, I should have looked this up, 3 or 4 degrees. Like, it's a pretty subtle drop, but they can't have clothes on, and they have to be on this little blanket that keeps their whole body cold. He had tubes everywhere, and the rest of that day is really a blur. That's really kind of all I remember. The next day, I asked Dave if the doctor was ever going to come talk to me about what happened in the birth, and he said he spent an hour with you yesterday, and I have no memory of that. And it could have been the drugs or just shock. But yeah, so, I, on top of everything, I had to kind of grieve for what I thought was going to be such a glorious, perfect, best day of my life. And it was really like the worst. And I don't even remember half of it. And the other thing about them being cooled is you can't hold them. So for 3 days, he was cooled for 3 days. And so I was trying to pump milk, and that was really hard and not working. I got discharged from the hospital, and I didn't want to leave. So they let me stay in like one of their like traveling family rooms on the floor for one night. And then the next night they needed it for an actual traveling family. So Dave and I spent the night in a hotel one night nearby, just because even though we lived 15, 20 minutes away, we just couldn't leave. We just really wanted to be close to him. And then I think on the 5th or 6th night, we were able to get a family room at the hospital. So it was on the NICU, which was amazing. So you get to sleep in a room with the baby. And at that point, I was able to hold him and nurse him and bathe him and do baby stuff. But he was still hooked up to a lot of machines, and we were still watching him like a hawk. And they were monitoring largely his reflexes, because that kind of gives you an idea of how much brain damage there is. And he had most of his reflexes, but the big one that was most concerning was his gag reflex, because if you don't have a gag reflex, then you can't swallow food because you might aspirate it. I think it was like day 4 or 5 that he finally presented with that, and we were just like over the moon.
So relieved.
Yes, it was such a relief to get that, because then we could actually give him breast milk too, which was a huge deal for me. So anyway, he was in the NICU for 9 days. And then I think on the 8th day, they did like a brain MRI, and the MRI they said looked pretty good. And that's sort of like kind of goes back to what I was saying before. It's kind of what we've been told about Charlie in every situation, is he looks pretty good, which is great. You know, it's what you want to hear. But then there's also like, well, what's the pretty part? Like,
right.
what's the part you're worried about? So then we got to take him home, and he was, for all intents and purposes, like a very normal, healthy baby, except he was extremely colicky. Joy probably remembers how difficult his first, year was of dealing with his colic and fussiness, and had a lot of sensory needs. Needed like pitch black room, like white noise and on 10, full motion, full body movement to sleep. I remember coming over to Joy's house for one of her generous mom gatherings with other moms with babies about the same. They were all within a month or 2 of each other. And they were all just like, they were probably 6 months old or something. And they were all just happily like laying around on the floor and cooing and
like, I've chosen
nursing.
The wrong group of mom friends.
And I will never forget, like, I'm standing with like my carrier, with Charlie in my carrier, and he's just screaming at the top of his lungs. I'm like trying to nurse him in the carrier, and I'm just sweating bullets while everyone else is just sitting on the couch. It's like that's fine. Like, good. I'm
so happy for you guys.
But this baby has not let me sit on the couch in 6 months.
Yeah. And
I shouldn't blame him, but it was just such a stark, whenever I was around other babies and other moms, it was stark to me. And so that was another like hard part to process.
Isolated, yeah. Even when we were with other people, still feeling isolated.
Yeah.
It's super hard.
Yeah. So because of his diagnosis, he was in a lot of evaluations and was eligible for free services through the state. I think Shannon was mentioning TEIS on one of your prior episodes, but how the state basically pays for any kids under 3 with any sort of disability. They pay for their evaluations and treatment. So OT, PT, speech, stuff like that. And his diagnosis qualified him for that, which is great and such a blessing, I'm sure, for, thousands and thousands of people. It was such a burden for us. It was so exhausting.
Like having to take him to all these appointments.
Weekly. More than once a week, he would have these appointments, and he'd have appointments, and then his doctor would recommend, another doctor and
specialist in this department.
Yes. And yes, you're getting that OT through the state, but let's also see this other OT through this clinic. And it was every week, and Dave and I are working full time. And so we're depending on family and coordinating all these times, and the whole time them saying, he looks pretty good.
He looks pretty good.
And you're just like, okay, well, how many more of these appointments do we need to do? We want to do them if it's helpful, but like, it's not, we're not seeing, if it's helpful. You tell us if this is helpful. We don't know. This is our first baby. We don't have any comparison. We don't know like if he's doing things at a developmentally normal time frame, or it was just a very lost and confusing and guilt-ridden time too. Because then you're like, well, this is a real struggle for us to get him into all this stuff and
right.
make all of these
But if we
appointments.
don't take him to these appointments,
Oh my
then we're going to
God.
live with the guilt of like, we
course.
should have put more effort into doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was just a lot of that. And then the whole time I was also really dealing with PTSD from his birth.
Yeah.
And I asked for a psych consult while I was in the hospital. They sent a lady who didn't know they sent a psychologist who didn't know what meds that I could take because I was breastfeeding. And she was like, well, we'll set you up with this other psychologist who specializes in pregnancy and breastfeeding. He can see you in 6 weeks. Great.
Thanks.
And I've been on SSRIs like on and off my whole life.
Yeah.
Like I'm
What does that stand for?
selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So Prozac, Celexa, Lexapro, fluoxetine.
Shout out.
Let's play a game.
This is what the listeners
Play
are
SSRI bingo. If you've taken it.
I've taken about all of them, I think. So I'm very pro medicine. I am pro therapy. And, I was basically just like, give me everything I need. Like,
Same.
tell me what I need. I'll do it. I'll take it. Yeah, there just wasn't a good setup in my opinion, for moms who had traumatic births in the healthcare setting where I was. There's so much focus on postpartum depression and now even peripartum depression, so like during pregnancy. But the actual traumatic birth thing really seems to kind of be neglected in terms of resources and care. Yeah. So, and then I saw that guy too at 6 weeks and he was terrible. And he was like, well, you can take this antipsychotic drug. It's really the only thing you can take while you're breastfeeding. And I was like, then tell me to stop breastfeeding. Like, I'll do whatever I got to do. Just, I need to be able to function. I need to be able to sleep. I need to be able to work. And I need to, have my wits about me and not feel like I'm sinking, like a sinking ship. So the hormone fluctuations of postpartum plus that traumatic event. And I'm really lucky to say it was honestly like the first really traumatic event of my life. So I had no blueprint or framework for how to ask for help or
to even know how you
navigate
process trauma yourself.
Yeah.
How did you know to ask for help that day? Did you, because of your medical background, you were like, send in a therapist?
I think I was like, this was terrible.
Right.
I'm gonna, and I have a history of depression and anxiety. I know I'm gonna need help. That was really what it was. Yeah, just knowing my history, and also dealing with, shouldn't say dealing with, but coping with having a newborn who's sick those first few weeks and not knowing. I mean, what they pretty much told us when we left was, we'll watch and wait. We'll see how he does. And for someone like me who's a planner and type A and needs to know what's going to happen, when, how, where, what do I need to do? What does he need? That was like the worst thing anyone could tell me was, we'll see how he does in a month and then we'll check him again in another month and we'll see how he does. And I'm like, what do you mean how he does?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah. And that's what they told us. So living with that anxiety, living with, the fear for what could.
Sarah.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Good thing that wasn't.
Alarm. Does that help?
Good thing it wasn't while Alexis was actually crying.
I thought that earlier. I thought, turn off the alarms. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Shit. Those are to keep me on schedule. Anyway, go on. That's what alarms are.
It's amazing to me, and even the second time around was equally amazing to me, the fact that we feel the need to be given permission to stop breastfeeding. I don't know who's giving the permission. It almost doesn't even matter who gives it to us. We just need, and I needed more than one person. Like my mom kept trying to do it. She kept being like, Joy,
stop.
It's not a big deal. She's like, when I was having kids, formula was like the best. It was sold as the best thing you could do for your babies. Like people who breastfed, they only breastfed because they were poor.
Right.
Like she's like, it's so different now, but also it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but then you roll
And
your
I was
eyes
like,
at your mom.
I know
'cause-
you're saying that, but like, I need, who else? Anybody else? Can anybody else tell me?
Totally. Dave tried to get me to stop.
Infuriating.
I mean, he was so supportive and watched all those pump parts, you know, endlessly. But he was like, you're not, well, yeah. I mean, I was pumping in the middle of the night, trying to keep my supply up and feeding and then pumping to try to get my supply up. And then went back to work, and that made it even worse.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my doctor, just like my family or my internist, about 11 months in, and she kind of looked at me and she's like, how's it going? And I was like,
pretty good.
Awesome. Pretty good, yeah. And she was like, you know, how are you sleeping? And I was like, well, the baby doesn't sleep per se, and I'm up 2 or 3 times a night pumping. She's like, you're pumping? You're still breastfeeding? And she knew I was back to work, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I was trying to make it at least a year, you know? And she's like, Alexis.
Oh, honey. I'm about to change your world.
You don't have to do that. Actually, she was like, I want you to stop. Like, that's not enough sleep. Like, you're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
You're not going to be a good mom if you're not taking care of yourself. And, you know, that's what the baby needs more than your milk, is you being awake and present and feeling like yourself. And
loving the baby,
Yes.
not resenting the baby.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, oh, okay. That sounds good. That sounds like a good reason to stop.
I really like that idea.
I like that. I like you.
Can I see you again tomorrow?
Can you say that again into my phone?
That's my ring.
my new
my ringtone.
my new affirmation.
That's your alarm.
But it was such a gift for her to say that. And then this is kind of a sidebar, but another gift, I think we've talked about this, another gift that a coworker gave me when I was still pregnant with Charlie. She was like, you will, at some point, you will want to shake the baby. Like, you won't.
100%.
You won't do it, but they will wake you up in the middle of the night one night and not get back to sleep, and you will want to shake it. And that is normal. And you're not going to do it. Don't worry. You know not to hurt your kid.
But don't feel guilty for
But when you think
thinking.
you think of me and know that I thought that too. And she's a, you know, respected member of my workplace, and I respected her a lot. And sure enough, I had that moment in the middle of the night one night, especially with a colicky. I mean, probably millions of times.
Shut up.
Just
shut up.
I've done everything
Yeah.
I can for you.
Yeah.
Please shut up. And yeah, you just feel like you're at the end of your rope. And in that moment, you kind of, I really understood why moms,
Why it happens.
hurt their kids.
I am moved that you said that. I just have had that same thought, and I've never thought to, I can't even say it.
No, I know.
So you're, I
know.
can't, yeah.
I know.
No, keep going. If you,
No, I can't. I literally can't. I'm not even brave enough to say the
have
whole
the,
thing, or don't even know how to verbalize it.
I know.
her pacifier will be in my mouth, like, you know, because it's on the floor, it's under the
'Cause it's
crib,
comforting.
like covered in dust in the corner that I can't reach with my hand, and it's pitch black, and I'm like, well, I can't turn any light on to find whatever. It's a whole thing. The pacifier will be in my mouth, like, because I'll be cleaning it off before I give it back to her, and I will bite down on it so hard when I'm so angry, like when I want to be squeezing the child, I will just bite down on that pacifier, and I'm like, I'm so surprised I haven't like broken through it yet.
Those things are strong.
Yeah. Be surprised. Yeah.
But yeah, I've told so many first time pregnant moms that is normal. It's not unhealthy unless you act on it. It's just a part of sleep deprivation and hormonal fluctuations, and I think
being
just
being pushed to such an
limit.
extreme that you have never been pushed to before, mentally, physically, or emotionally, all at the exact same time.
Yes, I know that I would never act on it, but it totally made sense. And when she told me that when I was pregnant, I was like, okay, whoa. Okay, come on.
Yeah.
Can't be that bad.
Yeah.
But motherhood is so beautiful,
Yeah.
and babies are so wonderful. How could anyone?
Yeah.
And then it's the middle of the night, and for the 600th night in a row, and you're just like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I think with Ava the first time, I didn't have, I still felt like, not that I couldn't ask for help, but almost like this competition with myself of like going out of my way to not ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And with Penny this time, I was way quicker to, when either of us were feeling that, it would just be an immediate, here's the baby.
I'm done.
I have to walk away.
Yeah.
I have got to walk away because I'm about to lose my mind. And we had such a hard time with her sleeping because I would assume most babies aren't comfortable in a bassinet that's got like cardboard for the mattress and on their back when they're sleeping. Like anytime you're holding them, they're sleeping up against your chest. And then all of a sudden they're supposed to sleep through the night, like flat on their back with
cold.
Yeah. And so I would have her in the bassinet as long as I could. And then it would be like, okay, I'm bringing you on me because I have to sleep.
Yeah.
I have to sleep.
We have to survive this.
And I don't know what to say other than I am more worried about what's going to happen to this baby
if I don't sleep.
Than the risk of the baby sleeping with me in the bed. Because when I reach a certain level, I don't like the feeling of not trusting myself.
Right.
And I got to step away.
Right.
So right now, this is my priority.
Yeah.
But it's still...
It's hard. It's really hard to...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, how separate you feel from the baby in those moments, too, right? Like, they are just they're not a person anymore. They're just a
thing that won't be quiet.
They're not even there.
I think
and they're not smiling at you. They're not. You're not getting anything from them at that age yet.
No, yeah.
There's no like relationship yet where they're giving back.
Right.
I didn't know before I had a baby. I didn't understand what colic was and how extreme it is, and that is it's just a different thing. Like I didn't experience that, and I know that is. It's just that for anybody who doesn't, it's just never ending crying, really, right? Like there's just inconsolable and the extremity of that, and only having experienced like, I don't even know, not very long periods where he's inconsolable and the strain of that mentally, I can only imagine what colicky babies are like. Was Ava or Penny, they were not, right? Or was Ava
I don't remember Ava being super difficult, but again, it was so long ago, so I could have just blocked it out. Penny definitely would have like the witching hour every night for the first, 3 to 4 months, where it would just be like, just doesn't matter what we do. She will not stop screaming. Can't get her to fall asleep, but we can tell she's exhausted and just won't let it go. And Jeremy was saying, he was like, it's so hard because a baby crying is one of the few things in life that triggers this like response in your brain that's like, just make it stop.
Yeah. Fight or flight. And so living in that headspace for an extended period of time is just... extreme. Like I know that I have felt similar things in those moments, but it goes back to the vast difference from one moment to the other. Like whenever you said you feel like disconnected in those moments, and I like my eyes got big, but really I have felt that. I just like can't access it in this moment because now that I'm not with him for a couple hours, I'm like every single thing's perfect. It needs to be perfect, and it's like it's not a way,
Yeah, it's like that thing where you're like frustrated with your kids all day, and then as soon as you get in bed, like I'll just look at photos and videos.
Or Dave and I seems to get more intense. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Dave and I will get like a date night for the first time in months, and like the whole time we'll just look at pictures and talk about the kids.
It's really hard not to do that, but it's so hard. There's
really
so
hard.
Do you want to talk at all about the transition from one kid to two, and anything that kind of surprised you in that sense? Or
a lot of people talk about like going from 1 to 2 is like going from 1 to 10. Like it's so difficult, but maybe because their ages were spaced out well enough, it didn't feel like I definitely didn't have two babies. I had a little boy going to pre-K and a little snuggly baby, but it was, I would call it a healing experience to have her and to feel like I didn't miss out on some of the stuff that I really wanted to experience with a baby. In hindsight, really healing for me too was this. I guess this sounds kind of sad, but it was good for me to see that like her being born wasn't some majestic
You didn't miss out as much on what you thought
Yeah.
you may have.
So that was kind of healing for me, though, just to kind of demystify that golden hour stuff and
the movie
Yes.
experience.
Yes. Yeah. It was all just kind of like normalized. Like, yeah, that's what it's normally like. And yeah, some people are really lucky and get to have beautiful natural births or births at home in the water and their husbands, blah, blah, blah. And that's great. And I wanted that, but it wasn't in the cards for us. So, but it did give me some peace going through that again, especially after being so nervous to do it again, because we waited 4 years. Well, actually, we waited 3 years, and then we had a few miscarriages. And that was difficult. We almost gave up.
Yeah, this was kind of your last.
It was our last
try.
Attempt. And it worked out the last time, obviously, but that was like it was actually another strike against my body. I had a lot of anger at my body for what it did during my labor with Charlie. Felt very betrayed, and also betrayed by all the people who said to trust your body, that your body knows what to do.
Yeah.
Women have been doing this for millions of years.
Yeah.
You just push the baby out.
Rice patties. This in there.
Yeah. The baby will come out. No matter what you do, the baby will come out. And like, well, my baby would have come out dead. Like,
Right.
yeah, it might have come out, but it wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had a lot of resentment about my body and how it felt like it failed me. And so some hangups with that. And then the miscarriages, hangups with that, that kind of exacerbated that.
So
And then-
Kate was kind of like a healing of a bunch of things.
Yeah, I would say so. I feel like there was something else I was going to say about that. Or another part of the question that I'm forgetting.
I was just asking how the adjustment into 2 has been. I remember when we were at Lachlan Table talking about
Shout out.
when we were talking about getting this podcast.
Great desserts.
We were talking about getting this podcast going because I had just had Penny, and so we were talking about just the like.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, at that point, Charlie was driving me insane.
Right.
And he still does. They both do now, though. I mean, she's 3 now, so she's, terrible 3s. Insane.
Or how it's just hard to go from, okay, I'm giving this kid what they need. And then instead of just being able to be like, okay, and I did my duty and now I can take some time for myself. It's like, no, I know. Oh, I got to check in on this one too.
Yes.
All right. Or someone's always needing something.
100%. Yeah. That just feels like daily life.
Yeah.
Charlie was really, it had nothing to do with having a new sibling that I could tell. It was just like, he's a kid and he also needs things. But when you're giving 100% to a little baby, anyone who's like, can you get me a glass of water? You're just like, oh my
I will
God.
kill you.
Oh, how could you even come in here? How dare you?
I was putting Penny down for a nap or maybe to bed. And it's like pitch black in there. And I'm like getting her to be quiet. And Ava just walks in and is like, hey, Mom, in like a whisper that's definitely not whispery enough. And I was just like, what are you doing? What? You cannot come in here ever while I am putting her to sleep unless it is a full-blown emergency. I'm sorry if I did not make that clear.
If there's a small fire, I need you to wait until it gets
Here's where
bigger.
the fire extinguisher is. Figure it out.
Like the horror anger face that I don't know if everybody has that, but like this horrified anger face whenever somebody makes a noise when they're sleeping. Even still, and I'm like, maybe I should tone that down at this point. Like it's fine. He's
when
just
someone
napping.
closes a door and just pulls it closed and doesn't turn
How?
the knob and gently, I'm like, every door should be closed in this house as if you are sneaking back into your house or sneaking out of your house when you're a teenager. And like, if your parents hear a single noise, you will get grounded for the rest of your life.
That's
That
a
is
sign
how
I
we
should
should close every door in this house.
You just start grounding them, I guess.
People.
Just ground adults, ground
Everybody.
everyone. You're grounded.
With Ava, we had roommates still when she was little, and
Oh my God.
everybody just
Yeah.
every door was just pulled closed, and I was just like, "This is
How?
I can't do
Yeah.
this
And
anymore."
and like the heightened, like in my body, even I have it
Yes.
now.
Oh yeah,
My husband has a studio at the house in the backyard and people coming out to use the bathroom. And honestly, it rarely happens. And especially during the pandemic was a really pivotal moment of Parker napping was, so vital.
yeah.
And no, there weren't too many people in and out that didn't know the drill. This is a long story for just the point
Please.
is people in and out that don't know. And like it's an old house, you have to
people without
detail
kids,
things.
basically. It's just people without kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
or they just don't know. And then, they just don't know.
Or they don't know there's a baby in the house or.
What? Right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, right. They just don't know. They don't know. Yeah. It's like blaring sound machines. So you think it's fine and probably is fine. But
What's funny is they rarely ever happen where they wake up.
I know.
But the rage is there every time.
I don't think it ever happened one time that
never woke them up.
Exactly.
But you're still, but then you
But if it did.
But I swear to God, if it did.
Well,
I'm ready.
One time.
I got all this just years of rage waiting for it to happen one time.
Has that ever happened to anyone?
I don't take them out.
I don't think so.
This is just our outlet. We just uncovered this is huge.
It's never happened once.
I'm just mad.
I'm just so mad. Well, I mean, you know how like you can step on like one floorboard and the kid wakes up and but it's always you, right?
Right.
Or this happens with Charlie because
it's always me.
Yeah,
it is. It's always me. I dropped the thing in the sink, and anyway, what do you do for yourself to fill the well? What do you do?
Thanks.
Do you have a thing? Some things?
So when I was okay, let me try to keep this short. When I was
Set the timer.
It's the least important part of all of it, right? When I was trying to recover from Charlie's birth, I did a lot of therapy. I did EMDR. It was really helpful.
Yes.
Highly recommend. Shout out to EMDR. Michelle Foote-Pierce at Vanderbilt is fantastic. I also did a mindfulness-based stress reduction course with her at Osher, which I recommend to my patients, friends, family. It was an 8-week course and it changed my life. Completely reshaped the way that I manage stress or just really manage my life and see the world in a totally different way. Taught me a lot about gratefulness too, and how healthy it is to actively pursue gratefulness, actively practice gratefulness, even when it doesn't feel like a good time.
Just go there.
Just do it anyway. So that was really helpful during that recovery time. And I feel like I'm always going to be, on that path of recovering from that day. And then as a mom, I feel like in general, as a mom, reclaiming my identity with going back to work was really important to me. Not that my job is my identity, but it makes me feel like there is more to me than just being a caregiver, just being a mom. Not that stay-at-home moms don't have an identity. That's not what I'm saying. It was just an important part of me before, and it's still an important part of me. It's something that makes me feel productive in a different way, use a different side of my brain, and contribute in another way. And then a really big key piece for me in the past few years has been creative outlets. So even just gardening is really nice and meditative for me. I've gotten into pottery the past few years. For like $100, you can take pottery classes through Centennial Arts Center.
I've looked at that. Awesome.
It's so cheap.
Did you and Corey do that together?
We did it once, and then I've continued doing it. It's something where I can use my hands. I can, there's no stakes. Again, it's $100 for like a whole semester. So there's no stakes. If it's crap, great. Right. Like throw it away. Who cares? I just get to make something and also feel the progress, see incremental progress, see myself get better.
Learning a new
task, skill. I'm trying to think of a happy, funny story involving your kids. Let's see. Well,
something funny.
Something good.
Does Charlie do anything funny?
Oh my gosh.
I love the name Charlie.
Oh, thank you. It was my grandpa's name. I had a grandpa, Charlie. He was the best. Yeah, Charlie's hilarious. He's really funny. His accents are killing me right now. He the other night he has an assignment for Halloween of reading for 20 minutes like in different ways. So like over the month of October, every day he has to read for 20 minutes, but like with different fun ways of reading. So it'll be like,
That's fun.
read 20 minutes in your Halloween costume, read under the covers with a flashlight. And so the other one he did the other night was read using a vampire voice.
Ooh.
Fun.
And it was the cutest thing. It didn't sound like a vampire.
It didn't sound like this.
Wow. That was so loud,
I'm
too.
an actor, so.
Joy's an actor. How can they...
I've done nothing.
Shout out.
How can they see some of
But
your
in
work?
my heart, I am an actor.
You've done things.
Do you guys know Marcel the Shell?
Yes. Marcel the Shell with shoes on.
with shoes on.
I
Thank
have
you
not
for
watched
the
that
full-
in so long.
There's a book,
Yeah.
and we have the book, and he read that like a vampire, in air quotes. And,
And his vampire voice sounded like...
okay, I'm going to... Let me see. It was really just kind of British. Let's see if I can do it.
That tracks.
I'm trying to remember like a line from the book. Some people say that my head is too big for my body. And I say, compared to what?
I feel like that could take us straight into
Yes, perfect.
Pop culture
British.
corner.
Okay.
Speaking of
Since we're
British.
Oh, thank
doing
you.
British accents.
Great British Bake Off. I wish I had the music. We should
Oh,
cue that
dang.
in. I don't know if we can. 5 seconds of it. maybe. Yay.
And go.
Okay. Great British Bake Off. This is my first. Started in Britain.
Oh,
The cast. Okay. The original cast was lightning in a bottle of like cute British people. And then they got bought by a new production company in, I think, like their 3rd season. So there were 4 hosts. 2 of them were judges and 2 of them were like hosts. And they are all genuinely interested in the people. Okay. I can't look at anybody and then stay focused. Okay. And then so the 2 of the hosts, these 2 women, had like too much integrity and didn't go. This is what I read. Okay. So they had too much integrity and stayed with, or they wouldn't go with the new production company. So they got bought out by these people. And now Noel Fielding, who of Old Greg fame, and the guy who plays like a twin in
Bridesmaids?
Alice
No.
Cooper is what I want to say. Alice in Wonderland. Okay,
He's
Bridesmaids.
in Bridesmaids. He was in Les Mis for a minute.
Okay, this is
on
my
Broadway.
minute. Alice in Wonderland, Tweedledee and Tweedledum and Alice in Wonderland. He's that's not even any of it. Okay, I want 30 more seconds.
Okay.
Said it.
I'll allow it.
Okay.
I was-
Actually, you know what?
what?
That's mostly it.
I was so not expecting to start.
You know what? I just
like,
need 5. I need 10 seconds to
10
finish.
seconds. Okay, go.
Okay. It's all very structured and routine and comforting. And in this time period, like especially now, and there's bright colors and they all seem to be genuinely caring about the people. And there's something about it that feels like really magic, and the space and everything is like consistent. Okay.
That was great.
I thought that was great.
Thank you.
I was not expecting it to be like how the show began, like
Right.
some history. I thought you were going to talk about this specific season, like this person is my favorite so far, and this person made this horrible.
Well, I wanted to
Cake
talk about
or
that
this
with
one.
y'all. So
Oh,
I just
okay,
thought I would
okay.
introduce it in case anybody doesn't know
Oh my goodness.
what it is.
I love my favorite thing about that show is just everyone's just happy to be there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They're all
Like,
so...
why can't our shows be like that?
Right.
I don't
And there's
know.
no money. They don't win any money.
That cake thing. And like the clout, you know.
That
and
glass
you're
cake
right.
plate.
Yeah.
What do you mean they don't win anything in that bouquet of flowers?
Yes. And the hang with everybody's so funny.
How
and
much
fun.
do you think those would go like on eBay?
I bet we could find out.
The
No one's going to
ridge?
sell it.
No.
No way.
No, I pried out of their cold,
No.
dead British fingers. Did you remember anybody that you liked from the season?
I feel like it takes me. There's so many at the beginning,
Yeah.
No.
and
Yeah.
they spend such little. Like they move around. When it gets
Right.
narrowed, everyone gets more time.
Yeah.
You get to know everybody a little.
The
bit
lady
better.
who looks like, well, she used to be, it's not Mary Berry.
Can we talk about the opening?
The one that looks like Prue. Oh my gosh.
True. Thank you.
The opening of this season.
Which one was this? Oh, was it
There-
Billy Ray Cyrus?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I was like, you know what my biggest regret about that was that everyone was streaming that at different times. And I really wished that we could have all, as a
Watched
World.
it as a collective.
yeah, I
Yeah.
really wish we could have all seen that ridiculous, don't break my tart, my
Oh,
achy, what is it? My
achy
flaky,
breaky tart.
my
Oh,
flaky bakey tart,
Cakey?
cakey tart. that we all couldn't have seen that at the same time. And like, because I watched it by myself. Dave wasn't even home. So I was just like looking around my room, like, is anyone else seeing this?
That would have brought us all together. That's the healing that we need.
What is happening? I feel like it is a salve to the soul. It is like what Chicken Soup for the Soul should have been. Instead of making us read those stupid books as a kid. Should have
cut that.
Some of our listeners may be offended, but
some of the topics we cover in this week's episode might be sensitive to some listeners. So listener discretion is advised.
We might be bad-mouthing.
Alexis, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story and being vulnerable. And yeah, I don't know if we said this earlier, but Alexis was a key component in making this podcast get to where it is. She helped bridge some gaps in getting the process up and going. So I definitely appreciate you for that.
Yes, thank you.
I love you.
I love you too.
I love you, Sarah.
And I you.
Kind of. We don't know each other as well.
We're getting there.
We will love each other.
I'm falling in love with you.
I'm like 65% there.
I feel
pretty good. I feel pretty good.
Pretty good. Pretty good.